Right then, lads, welcome back to Cossy's Arsenal podcast. My name is Cossy. Now, Peter asked me to do a video about the midfield situation at Arsenal. And in this video, how to fix the midfield at Arsenal, I'm going to be looking at the two outgoing midfielders or the two current midfielders at Arsenal and what I would really do with them. Honestly, I would let them go. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look at two players that I think should come in this Arsenal midfield, and I think they would be really, really great midfielders and midfield additions. What we want, in that midfield is a massive upgrade. We need something. We need someone who can come in and bring us that extra level of quality. Guess what? I have two. We need one. I got two. And there is a player I really want to talk about, Ryan Gravenberch, in this video. He's a part of my dream signings, but I cannot talk about Ryan Gravenberch, knowing very well that Bayern are on the verge of signing him. So I cannot talk about Ryan Gravenberch. Really sorry. I was really saddened about that because he's my dream midfielder. Really affordable, 35 million. I think Arsenal should have given it a try, but Mikel Arteta didn't see that. So how would I solve the midfield situation at Arsenal? Xhaka and Mohamed Elneny are the two midfielders that we are looking at to replace. Last summer, Xhaka was about to join Roma, but Mikel Arteta told him to give it a try. He told him, actually, according to his interview with, I think it was with the Tribune, he said, Mikel told me to stay for a while. If I wasn't happy, then he would let me go. Mohamed Elneny has already come out and said, look, I would stay at Arsenal. Perhaps I was given the contract. I would 100% stay. But the truth about this is this, lads. I think Mohamed Elneny and Xhaka are very, very good players, but they're not the quality that we are looking at. We have brought in the structure. We have already laid the foundation and the structure at Arsenal. What we need to do next is to really get to the quality of the Champions League, just like Edward said. So who are those names? What are the players that I've gone for that I think Arsenal should be signing this summer to fix our midfield demand, but also our demand for upgrade? Number one, I've gone with Jude Bellingham. Now that is the name. Every big club, every team in the UK, in the Premier League, in the Champions League should be looking at Jude Bellingham. He's one of the most exciting talents. He's only 18 years of age. I think he's turned 19 to be sure. He's still a teenager, but he's one of the best midfielders in the world. Look, I really like I really like Frankie de Jong, and I almost talked about Frankie de Jong in this video, but then I remembered there is a player called Jude Bellingham. So why I would sign Jude Bellingham for Arsenal? There are a couple of reasons. We're going to look at his tactical report and analysis, just a few pictures to show you what I'm talking about. But why Arsenal need Jude Bellingham is we need another player who can be a game controller, just like Martin Odegaard and Thomas Partey. But we also need individual brilliance in the middle of the park. Look, agree. You can't agree with me. You can't disagree with me. Jude Bellingham signing for Arsenal would be a marquee statement signing. I think it will be one signing that Arsenal fans would never forget. So what exactly would he bring to Arsenal? Where can he play? And why do I think he's an upgrade to Granit Xhaka? So if you look at what Mikel Arteta is trying to do at Arsenal and how we are trying to play, I think we're trying to play a 4-3-3, despite the fact that we predominantly line up in that 4-2-3-1 formation. But when you look at how we line up while we are in possession, you can see that our fullbacks are always high up the pitch, especially the left back, who is Kieran Tierney, and then Tomiyasu could at times play narrow and stay behind in that kind of elbow system. Tomiyasu stays behind. You also have Gabriel and Ben White forming a back three. If Ben White moves up the pitch, then you would have Granit Xhaka falling into the back three, or Thomas Partey, who really doesn't do that lots of the time. So why I would love Jude Bellingham to join in Arsenal? Actually, I think he would come in as a direct replacement of Granit Xhaka. I think what Arteta is trying to do with Granit Xhaka is very visible. And this season, he's been a very, very better player, given the fact that he's playing so far away from the pivot, and he's also playing very, very far away from that line of defense. That means one or two things. First and foremost, he creates less errors that lead to shots, and also he creates very, very little errors that can directly lead to a goal. So he's playing in that advanced position ahead of Thomas Partey. Partey is kind of the best, and then Xhaka is kind of that player that plays on the left hand side of the attacking midfield, while Martin Odegaard plays on the right hand side of the attacking midfield. And that is where Jude Bellingham would really play for Arsenal as an attacking left midfielder. We have to agree that one of the best performers I named this season for Arsenal was Emile Smith-Rowe. And the reason there lies is that whenever we played him in the left attacking midfield, he's really done well. 10 goals and 2 assists for us already this season. But Jude Bellingham is a massively quality player. I would not really say I can't compare him to Emile Smith-Rowe. Both of them are very, very young, in age and everything. But Bellingham is being compared to Steven Gerrard. He's one of the players that have those qualities of a complete midfielder when it comes to pressing, when it comes to dribbling, when it comes to passing, and also applying pressures per 90. If you look at some of his statistics there, defensively, he's completing 2.5 defensive blocks per 90. That is beautiful for a player who plays a little bit more, of an advanced role, because behind him you always have Mahmoud Daoud at Dortmund, or you could have Axel Witsel there. So probably predominantly plays in that left midfield, left attacking midfield role, where you have him and Julian Brandt trying to think and trying to figure out things for Borussia Dortmund, and that explains his shot creating actions. 2.8 per 90. That is really, really brilliant. And of course, 1.85 successful dribbles per 90. And his touches in the penalty area at 3.28. Why I love him, and why I think Arsenal should actually go for him, is not because he's just a midfielder, a simple midfielder or young, but I think he's one midfielder that is really capable of, impacting your game offensively and defensively. So let us look at this picture, and I'm going to try to explain what's happening in this series of events. Just a minute, right here. So if you look at him if you look at him here, this is where this is him being circled. He's in that little bit of advanced area, right? How did I not show you that? So the first in the first picture, he is in the on the left hand side of the midfield, and he's trying to create space for him to receive the ball and then turn towards the opposition, which are Hoffenheim. In the second picture, he's dropped almost into the defense, and he's getting the ball very, very deep into from the midfield, trying to progress him. You can see ahead of him, you have Mahmoud Daoud here in the midfield. You have the likes of Julian Brandt around, and then up there as well, we have have 2 Borussia Dortmund players. Then in picture 3, you can see him that the team is out of position and is already in the second line of attack. That of course, what that really does for you is that he's one of those players that can help you form a second block, especially when you're out of position. And then in picture 4, he's high up the pitch with, I don't know why people call Erling Haaland a cyber club, but of course he's high up the pitch with Erling Haaland trying to press high up the pitch, and you can see he's applying pressure on this on the Hoffenheim centre back, trying to make sure that they do win back possession high up the pitch rather than waiting for Hoffenheim to progress the ball into their area. So that is what those those 4 pictures pretty much explain what his game is all about. He's one of the players, very, very young, like I said. The moment you're compared to one of the best midfielders in the Premier League in Steven Gerrard, and explains why Liverpool are so mad about him. He's one of the players that are really going to progress the ball very, very high and very, very easily. Notably, his dribbling skills are always mentioned whenever they talk about him. Whenever Jude Bellingham is mentioned anywhere, his dribbling skills can never be forgotten. He's one of those players, and one of the key weaknesses he had before joining Borussia Dortmund. He always wanted to dribble past everyone on the pitch. So and Arsenal, apart from Martin Odegaard, who I think doesn't really do lots of dribbles, I think you just need someone comfortable on the ball. You need someone more comfortable on the ball, and that's why I said among the 3 priority midfielders that Mikel Arteta is looking at, I think Lucas Paqueta would be the better one. But in my case, on how I would solve the Arsenal midfield problem once and for all, go out there, spend almost 80-90 million getting Jude Bellingham. He is going to be a correct, perfect midfielder. Let me know if you think Jude Bellingham would be that man that you're really looking at. But one remark I'm going to make, he is sensational. All the scouting reports I've read about him, they of course they do point out a couple of weaknesses. For example, when he loves dribbling so much to an extent that at times he forgets that he has support around him from from fellow teammates and things like that. But then that also helps the team in terms of when you're frozen, when you have nothing new to offer, you have a player in Jude Bellingham that you can trust with the ball. He can keep it, but then he can also create something out of the box. That is something Arsenal lack. I think we saw it against Burnley, earlier this year. We tried to break down Burnley, and it ended 0-0 because we lacked one player like this who could just come and let the cat loose. I think Jude Bellingham would be that kind of player. Highly advanced midfielder that I think Arsenal would really use, especially with Thomas Partey at the base of the midfield. However, if Mikel Arteta doesn't want to go for such a player, I've also decided that we could have more, we could have one more who's very, very defensively able and also can give Arsenal that kind of very, very solid base. I've gone with Edson Alvarez. Now, Ajax have a midfield 3. They do play with a midfield 3, always, but notably in their midfield 3, they have 2 players that have really caught my eye this season under Erik ten Hag, and that is Edson Alvarez, who plays predominantly as the best of that midfield. You could call him your Rodri, Fernandinho, Fabinho. I think that's it. Your Thomas Partey, right? And then, of course, the other is Ryan Gravenberch, a player that I really love so much, a player that I think Arsenal could have turned into their next Patrick Vieira. But let's talk about Edson Alvarez. Edson Alvarez signed for Ajax from Club America. He's one of those players that are really quite very versatile, just like Jude Bellingham. Because when you look at Jude Bellingham's scout reports and profile, he can play in the pivot. He can play for you as an attacking midfielder. He can also play on the left wing of the midfield, which is really, really very fantastic. Now, with Edson Alvarez, he can play as a right back. He can play in both positions at centre back. But predominantly, these days, he's playing as a number 6. Before joining for Ajax, he had actually made only 23 appearances in the midfield, and he had made over 50 appearances in the centre-back positions. That shows you that he's very, very versatile. For a player who had played, much of his time in the centre-back positions, to come in and play almost a full season as a central midfielder, and as a defensive midfielder, but not only as a defensive midfielder, but also as a player who is actually a base for a team like Ajax, and the kind of positional and tactical play they want to do all the time. One thing I've loved about Edson Alvarez this season is the fact that he's very, very reliable, and you can trust him as a team, especially when you are on the ball. So that because players, what I love with players like Edson Alvarez, what he gives you, he allows you to have more attacking players on the pitch because he is secure. And he's literally a defender. Actually, when you look at how he positions himself on the pitch, much of the time, with or without possession, he's always part of. He always drops into that that centre back line, making sure that the defense is of a 3, because Ajax predominantly play with their left backs and right backs high up the pitch. I think Mikel Arteta is trying to do that as well. You can see Kieran Tierney always high up the pitch. I think he's one of the players that always have that high, advanced average position on on the map for Arsenal. His abilities as a player, confidence on the ball for a midfielder, for a defensive midfielder, especially one that is going to play in a 4-3-3-3, a 4-2-3-1. You've got to have that. He's got great ability on the ball. Dribbling is good. His passing ability is good as well, and he can also break through the lines. But what stands out for him as a player, unlike Jude Bellingham, is the defensive ability. He's really, really, really a very, very strong defender. And literally, if you look at some of the statistics that he has as a player, he completes more defensive tackles, more defensive blocks than Jude Bellingham. So what he would bring for to Arsenal, and we're gonna try to look at some of the pictures of what he does as a player. What he would give us as a player, one, he would allow Thomas Partey operate in a more advanced position, and I think this would really help Arsenal. You've seen Martin Odegaard really plays well with Thomas Partey having that kind of freedom and that kind of rhythm on the game. Alvarez would give you that because Alvarez as the best. Alvarez as the defensive protection. It allows Thomas Partey to progress the ball very, very high up the pitch, which is something that he really does well. But then it also allowed Thomas Partey and Martin Odegaard play side by side. Predominantly Odegaard playing on the right hand side, linking up 1-2s with Bukayo Saka, and then that means Thomas Partey would be in the midfield on the left, trying to link up with players like Emile Smith-Rowe or Gabriel Martinelli, depending on who plays on that side. The physical part of Alvarez is one of the things that really brought him to Ajax, because it was actually thought that he would come into Ajax to replace outgoing captain by then De Ligt, who joined Juve. But then when he came in, he was actually used as a replacement of Frankie de Jong, who was playing as part of who was playing as the best of the midfield at Ajax. But then there is something I want to show you really about this guy and what exactly he does and why I think Arsenal could get him, and then we do not change our style of play, right? So if you look at the first picture here, if you look at that first picture, that is him receiving the ball under pressure. He's under pressure. And he's facing his own goal. But in the second picture, it shows you that he comfortably controls that ball and then turns away using the space available to him. He turns away from the opponent, and then he escapes the pressure. And then you can see here that he makes that switch from midfield to the left hand side of the pitch. So that is one of the things that Arsenal would really get in him. He's one of those players that just allow you play. They just allow you keep the ball. He's a very, very good keeper of the ball. So he allows the team to play. He allows the team to be really, really comfortable. I think one of the things we've seen with Arsenal in the past two games against Chelsea and Manchester United, it's always going to be, there are times when Arsenal need to keep the ball. There are times when Arsenal need to hold the ball a little bit better. And I think you need players like Alvarez, Jude Bellingham, Thomas Partey, Martin Odegaard, keepers of the ball, players who are comfortable to receive the ball even if it is in tight areas, but then they can hold onto it, keep it safe for you. Alvarez or Jude Bellingham or both is what I would do to solve the midfield situation at Arsenal. Thank you so much, Peter, for your question. If you would love to, if you love me to do for you a video on the podcast, let me know in the comments below, and I'll speak to you right in the next one. I say bye-bye for now. I'll speak to you in a bit.